Would you let this guy babysit me or Joe as kids?
Hell no.
Why not?
Everything about him?
Because he was telling inappropriate stories and trying to get back to adult entertainment?
I mean, yeah.
All this and more on Gory Story Time.
Warning. Gory Story Time is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Story Time. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig. And this week, we've been gone for a couple weeks. We were an issue the last couple weeks because we've had stuff to do. Plus, one of the guys that works here has been having issues. So, but we're glad to be back.
Yes.
We're glad to be back. We're doing Dead Time Stories, the classic from 1986. It's a horror comedy. Here's the premise. A little kid is being babysat by his uncle. His uncle doesn't really want to spend any time with the kid because he'd rather do other things and let the kid sleep. And the kid keeps annoying him, saying there's monsters in his room, so he has to come in and tell another story. In each of the stories, he tells a twisted version of a children's story as a horror story. That's the premise.
Yeah, that is the premise.
I mean, the first story isn't a classic children's tale retold, but the other two are.
The other two are.
And the wraparound has a little bit.
Right.
But the first story, not so much. Anyway, anything else we should mention about the premise? I think I covered it.
That's it. It's an anthology movie. The idea is there's a guy telling stories to his nephew.
Like a dark version of
The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't Grandpa, it was Uncle Mike.
Yeah. But other than that, no.
All right. Well, before we get into the behind-the-scenes information that we do every week, why don't we let them see the trailer so they know what we're on about? And...
in the dead of night, when you're all alone, visions of terror run wild. Only tonight they will be real, because all the legends of darkness are coming out of the closet. In Dead Time Stories, an insanely wicked nightmare, haunted by bizarre creatures carving their way through a maniacal fable, oozing with evil magic. From the door to your most secret fears, all the way to Grandma's house, horror is back in style. I'm gonna make this very painful. Now it's time to say your prayers, because all your nightmares come to life in Dead Time Stories.
All right. So we usually try to find an original trailer, and the only one we could find for that was the one advertising it on Blu-ray. So, yeah.
But hey, that reminds me.
You know how many
watch
things
it before we review it for you.
Yes.
It's only 80 minutes, and it's up on free streaming sites.
Yeah, like legal
free streaming sites. So do watch.
Yeah, but we're not paid by them, so we're not going to say which ones.
It's on a couple of them.
Yeah. Anywho, before we get into the behind the scenes, and since we've watched the trailer, you know what comes next, don't you?
I do.
Making money and
Making a lot of
explaining
money.
why we make money. Here's how we do it. We sell ourselves out to actual things that exist and and we promote their products as pitchmen. And these are certainly not made up by me in any way, shape, or form.
No.
This week, This week, Gory Story Time is brought to you by Horror Nursery Rhymes. Horror Nursery Rhymes take all the classic nursery rhymes you loved as a kid and gives them a bloody, violent twist. Here's a couple of examples. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack threw her down and watched her drown. The hills shook with his laughter. See? And the classic Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider with venom to bite her. She hasn't been seen since last May.
Ooh.
Horror nursery rhymes, because your kids probably sleep too much anyway.
Ah.
I'm actually proud of coming up with those. I mean that they're real.
And sent to us. And by Babby Babysitters.
No. Now, English.
And by Bad Babysitters LLC. Bad Babysitters LLC sends you over a hard-ass babysitter who won't put up with any of your kids' crap. They won't do anything to hurt your precious brats, but they are guaranteed to yell at them if they get up after being sent to bed. They also have an arsenal of threats to keep them in line. So call today so you can get some rest from the little drains on your energy, money, and time. Bad Babysitters LLC is not responsible for any food or drinks missing when you get home.
All right. Now to what Jason likes to call the meat and beef of the show.
Or as I like to call it, the meat and beef of the show.
Yes. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I can go first.
Okay.
Some of the more explicit gore in the first segment had to be toned down in order to secure an R rating from the MPAA.
Which is funny, because no time did I think this was overly gory.
The first one was the goriest.
And I didn't find it overly gory. No, there was probably more in the third story, if you think about it.
Maybe.
Because of Goldie. Anyway,
Goldie, yeah.
A sizable amount of the first segment was shot by director Jeffrey Delman's backyard.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Melissa Leo had to wear a bulky orange sweater in order to cover up the fact that she had a cast on her arm that she had broken prior to the shooting of the third segment.
Yeah. Jeffrey Delman, Melissa Leo, and Kevin Hannon were all living together in the house that was used as Goldilocks' home.
Mm.
Well, that was a messy house, so I hope they messed it up for the film.
Yeah. The house used in the third segment burned down a few years later.
Red Riding Hood was initially going to be the first segment.
Scott Valentine's limp in the first segment was real. He had acquired the limp after he had been hit by a truck prior to shooting the segment.
Director Jeffrey Delman originally wanted to have the song Little Red Riding Hood by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs to play over the opening credits, but was unable to use the song because clearance rights were too expensive.
The film's wraparound is loosely based on The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
The cops in the third segment were actual NYPD officers using their own equipment, their service guns with blanks in them, their uniforms without any patches. Their roles were uncredited, and they were not compensated due to production undermining and mishandling. So after being in it, they got screwed.
Wow.
Yeah.
The monster scene at the end of the wraparound segment was based on a drawing done by a little boy that the director, Jeffrey Delman, knew.
So that's what that puppet looked like. It was actually from the mind of a child. That makes it better.
Okay.
That makes it better than I thought it looked.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's how a kid drew it. All of the special effects were done live in front of the camera. They didn't go back and alter anything with filters.
It stands out. In both the good and bad ways, it stands out.
Yeah. But there's a few really good ways.
There are.
There was a throat slash that was amazing. What it needed was a sound effect. Yeah.
What were you? The first segment was initially intended to be a full-length feature film. I could have seen myself watching that.
But I will say it's the one that goes against the whole premise. The premise is supposedly they were going to do 3 children's stories, and that one didn't have one that it was a ripoff of. But anyway, Kevin Hannon shaved his head for his role as Papa Bear.
Yeah. Co-star Catherine de Prume and director Jeffrey Dellman lent their voices as the commentators on the pageant that's on the TV in the wraparound story.
Kevin Hannon based his performance as Papa Bear on character actor William Hickey.
Director Jeffrey Dellman originally wanted the songs "Surfin' Bird" and "Walkin' on the Rain" for use in the third film, the film's third story, but the rights to the songs were too expensive.
It was made over a period of years between 1982 and 1985.
Wow.
Yeah, it took some time.
In the bedroom scenes, Brian's pillowcase flips between his close-ups and the shots that include both characters.
Goldie states that she was born during the Six-Day War, which was fought between the 5th and 10th of June in 1967 by Israel and the neighboring states of Jordan, Syria, and Egypt.
So she's
She was born during... she didn't say she was born there, though, so who knows?
So as of the movie, she could have been 18 or something like that, 17, 18.
Well, 67 to 85 would be, about 18.
Yeah, so...
Her character was. All right,
so
now...
she's an adult doing those terrible things.
We also like to tell you the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. And just as a quick refresher, Rotten Tomatoes, the way it supposedly works, and we've seen more and more lately that it doesn't, but this one seems possible.
This one seems
unfortunately with what he's going to say. But they take all the critics that are, accepted as critics through them, and they just boil it down to positive review versus negative review. And then they give you a percentage of the reviews that are positive. That's what the number is. And they do, have a section for people to go in and vote positive or negative, and same thing.
Yes.
What do the critics have it on Rotten Tomatoes?
With all 5 reviews, it is a 0%.
Yeah. According to that, none of the critics liked it. Of course, there was only 5 critics. And I don't know how many people it was, but...
just over 500.
The people have it at 21%, which is also really low.
Yeah.
I will say it's very low budget.
Like, here's the thing. It does make sense that the people would have it 20 or so points higher than the critics. I just think...
the critics should have had a number?
Right. It should have been more than 0.
Like, I don't know, with the special effects and stuff, I don't know if enough people were going to like the low... like, it took them 3 years to film it for a reason, because they were like, when we can afford to have someone come in, we'll do it.
Right.
But anyway, now we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite. Usually we talk about our favorite scene or our favorite thing about the movie, but with these anthologies, we usually like to say what our favorite story was and what our least favorite story is, and give a reason why. Now, we're going to count the wraparound as its own separate story. We usually do. Do you want to go first for your least favorite?
I can go first.
Okay.
So, my least favorite, it was up for debate, but I'm going to go with the first story, and only for one reason, and that is they sold us on, these are going to be twists on children's stories, children fairy tale stories, and then it wasn't one at all. From the beginning, the very first story he's being told. It wouldn't have worked out.
And I'm going to agree with him. That was actually my thing and my reasoning. I'm surprised. I thought you were going to say the other one because you liked he liked the story.
I like the story. It's just not what I was told I was going to be watching.
Exactly. Like, it being its own full-length movie,
like, I've got my quarrels with the second story.
Sure.
Like, if it had been 5 minutes shorter, minus that dumb, unnecessary first thing.
The very opening scene of the second story was rough. But, all right, what was your, since we agreed on that and agreed on the reasonings, but there's not much more to get into on it, what would you say your favorite of the three was?
The third one.
The third one.
I know. It's the funniest one. It is
very funny.
It's
the Goldilocks story.
One. Whether or not there's more gore in the first one or the last one, I don't know. It's pretty close if one's more than the other, but it's definitely the most violent one.
Oh, yes.
And it is so cool.
Most people ended on camera and off camera.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to have to go ahead and say this right now. I want a sequel to that story. I said this when we were watching it earlier.
He did.
I want a sequel.
He wants a Goldilocks and the Three Bears from Dead Time Stories, Part 2.
Like, I want to know where they went from there.
I just want to see a whole movie, and that be the first, third.
First 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? I'm pitching it now, all right? Do that, please, to somebody with money.
Yeah, because we have that kind of power. I'm going to say my favorite was also the Goldilocks one.
It's just great.
It really was. This is a horror and a comedy, and it had some horrific things, and it had some very funny things. Like the Bear family was escaped, and Goldilocks were all escaped mental patients.
Yeah.
With violent tendencies.
She has psychic powers.
Yes, Goldie has psychic powers, and they team up when they find her in the house. They don't
maul her to death and eat her like the original story.
Right, and it's interesting.
Which I almost, when I learned that she had the powers and they were like escaped convicts,
I
was like, oh, this is
going
to be a cool battle. Yeah. And then they immediately, let's go get pizza. And I was like, oh.
And it worked, though.
Yes.
It worked. Even though you were psychic, use your psychic powers to kick their butts. And then it was like, pizza. Go get pizza instead. And
that's better.
And not be there when the cops raid your house. And they did.
Flawless.
Secondary thing that I just want to nitpick, though. The cop figured out what house she was in when she escaped from the mental institution because, this victim was from here, this one was from here, this one was from here. She must be in this one house, which is not how it really works. They can figure out what area.
Maybe the stench of out 36 rotten corpses would give it away.
They didn't notice that. No, it wasn't that.
It wasn't that. Cooking in the summer sun.
So it was some illogical logic but it works for the humor, so whatever. Again, I'm nitpicking.
It was very 66 Batman.
All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. But on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate this? And be honest, because we had fun, but
rewatchability, I'm gonna say this is a 7. I'll give it a 7, 7.5 actually.
I'm gonna go with 6. I liked it better than a 6, but I understand the problems it has. And I can't legitimately give it
at its best, it's not great special effects.
Right.
At its best, it's not great acting.
Well, no. At its best, there were some good
special effects.
There was a couple really good ones, but there was a couple.
Right. It
werewolf
was passable,
in
obviously,
Red Riding
since we
Hood
watched it.
Didn't look great.
Yeah,
but werewolves never look great on film. All right.
So 7.5. 6.
I said 6. Yeah, I liked it more than that, but I can't honestly rate it higher because looking at everything this
nonsense. Egg is a lie.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm saying it's a 60%. I'm saying it should be barely passing because that's about where I feel it belongs.
But it is a lot of fun.
But it is passing, in my opinion. All right, so now we talk about the stuff that comes up on the side of the screen. And wait. No. Aha!
Yeah, so you can watch this show on Fact TV channel 1082, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Fridays at 7 p.m.
You can also check us out on Facebook, and like I say every week, not just Gory Story Time, definitely give us a like. Yeah. I try to share episodes there and stuff, but also Fact TV, the people that make this show every week for us. We come in here and they spend their time doing it and uploading it and all the things that they do. So definitely that.
Definitely that. Go to fact8.com, watch a bunch of the back episodes of this, as well as a century's worth of content.
I mean, you could watch a lot of hours of stuff on there. Also, follow us on X. I'm At Craig Jakes, all lowercase, all one word.
And I'm at Jiggly Fernbrain. I only tweet things that he says that I find funny in and out of context, usually out.
And then one last thing that's not on the list, but I always like to bring up. Go to YouTube, just search for Gory Story Time. 2 pages will come up that officially have the episodes. Gory Story Time has its own page. Like, subscribe, smash notification, all that fun stuff.
Share,
but
comment.
also do that with Fact TV's page, because that's also one will come up. And like we said, there's so much content that has been made over the years at this place, and it's like interesting. It's not just a billboard like a lot of community TV is, you know?
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of people that want to come in and have a lot to say.
Yeah.
About politics, about news, about whatever. There's so many different
There's just
things.
a lot that goes on here.
Absolutely. So like and subscribe to both of those, and that's about it. So
So until next time, I've been your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and father, Craig, and sweet dreams.